Alright, hey folks, back, but only for the moment, because it looks like we still don't have anything ready to go yet. You also note Zombie Grub is still on the old AFK screen there, so, like I said, if we can catch the tail end of one of these, oh, welcome back. If we catch the tail end of one of these games, we definitely will try our best, but there really isn't anything on at the moment, so, yeah, we'll be, I guess, maybe putting up a break screen in a second. I guess other things to talk about before I disappear that aren't so ad-ish. This week's new Mutator's out, actually, and I'm kind of excited but also scared of this one. For those who haven't been caring about co-op, that's fine. Please just give us a few seconds of your time to talk about something you might not be interested in. But for those of you that are interested in our co-op content, you've been watching our YouTube videos. Again, like, our co-op VODs get like as many views as, if not more, than a lot of these tournament VODs. So it's kind of like, okay, that's cool, I guess. But this one is going to be the one that rotates randomly through all of them. So it's like, hey, every 15 or 20 seconds, you got to deal with a laser drill. Then suddenly it's nukes. Then suddenly it's drops, or I don't know, like.
Sometimes it's really brutal.
Yeah, I'm actually excited to play this one, not just once, but a couple of times. I hope we don't beat this one on the first go. There's some YouTube comments on on last week's mutation where people were saying it was actually really hard for them, and they were surprised we got it one go, especially considering our luck with some of the other ones. To which my initial response was, well, rude, but secondly, like, okay, that's kind of cool.
Interesting.
Thank you very much to Exus1, by the way. He's officially made us now 20 new subs for the day. That is so fucking cool. So thank you, Exus1. Can we reach 30? Question mark. You know, I'm going to put an actual sub goal. Fuck it. We never do this. I'm going to do it. Riamar also resubbing for 31 months. Long time. Most awesome support of the channel. Thank you so much, dude. I'm going to do sub goal with a question mark. Because we're at 20. We'll set the bar for 30. We'll see if we can get 10 more. That will be kind of nuts, in my opinion, if we can. But 20 out of 30 for the time being. Just trying to think about what else. We got Shiny Force saying they liked our Overwatch stream yesterday. That's cool to hear. I gotta be honest, viewership for it was disappointingly low, and the turnout from the players and the teams was also not what I was hoping. It did, however... Like, we're still going through with it, with success or fail, but what's interesting about that, though, is it's really made me appreciate StarCraft even more. And it's one of those things where, like, you don't know how good you got it till it's gone, is kind of the feeling. Like, the observing tools in Overwatch are not great, but they're working to make them better, so that's kind of cool. StarCraft 2 hasn't seen any real improvements to the observing interface, except for us. What's up with that graphs mod? Woo! Which I guess I'll tell the story on in a moment. But secondly, the hype for Overwatch, I guess, is just really centered around the big teams. And this is what scares me about it, right? We've talked a little bit about esports in the past. And, of course, Overwatch kind of has had this bubble that is not necessarily popping, but more like just shrinking until it pops. I don't know how to phrase that because, like, it's not good that it's shrinking. You're seeing a lot more tournaments drop out of performing these weeklies anymore. Nobody wants to play the lower end of things because everybody's shooting for the high end. And if that's going to be how the system goes, then it's going to look very much like Korea does now for StarCraft, in which case it's fucked before it even begins. So I'm hoping something changes with Overwatch because from an outsider's perspective who finally stepped in, we ran a tournament, 2 qualifiers at this point, it's not looking good, to be honest. But I'm a huge fan of Overwatch. I love it to death. I hope to see it grow. But right now, it doesn't feel like on the low end of sides it's doing that. Because as cool as it is to see it up on like ESPN and have articles written and get E-League and, you know, Shaquille O'Neal pick it up like a team and all this, like, it doesn't matter if it dies in like 5 months from now, right? So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. That being said, though, it has once again made me appreciate StarCraft a lot more for its simplicity, for its complexity, all of these things combined, which is like a confusing and almost like just a polar opposite thing to describe it as. But the interface is something I want to talk about. So this is totally self-circle jerky, right? Like, if you guys don't want to listen to this, please come back in like 5-10 minutes. We probably have a match available. But we've done a lot to really contribute to StarCraft, and a lot of people see us contributing to StarCraft as throwing tournaments and hosting big dollar events like the Ting Open, and bringing sponsors into the scene and getting Corsair involved and all these other things, which is cool and awesome, and I respect that you guys respect us for that. But the thing I think that really I'm almost saddened about is a lot of people forget what is, in my opinion, the bigger achievements that we've done. For example, I'm like 99% positive if we didn't step in, the mini-map for Legacy of the Void would be the initial version we got in the beta, where it was transparent and hard to see things, and you really could not watch the mini-map. We would probably, if that version had gone live, have to have had someone make a custom mod just to use the mini-map in games. Like, it was that bad for those that don't recall or weren't around at the time for Legacy of the Void launch / its beta. Then anything between then and now, we've done a lot of little cool things to experiment, test, help Blizzard with behind the scenes. But the number one thing being this new change with the graphs mod. When they mentioned to me, like, respectfully, that they were looking to incorporate it, I was like super ecstatic. I was like, yeah, do it. That's gonna be great. That's gonna make the viewing experience better. It's gonna make things cooler, etc., etc. But please, God, please give us some actual recognition for this, because everything else we do seems to always be just behind the scenes, or we have like even somebody like Mike Morhaime thank us like in person, like CEO of Blizzard type thing, but nobody else hears about or sees it, so we don't get appreciated for it, or it goes just like completely unspoken, and it's almost as if it didn't happen. So for me, I'm really glad about the graphs mod, because while I did ask that they credit both of us for Base Trade TV, I at least got tagged in a tweet, and it's better than nothing. Either way, I'm looking forward to see how it influences the observing going forward. I mean, it doesn't take more than like a few seconds during downtime after a fight to look at the graphs mod and just kind of, again, too long didn't read the last 10 minutes, and I like that a lot, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, that was a big splurgy, just self pat on the back. But either way, I'm glad and proud of what we've been able to do for StarCraft, because I don't know, I can't say like a lot of people have left the same mark. Some people have obviously done bigger and better things, will be remembered forever. Day 9 is an example for this, but the Fear the Base Trade TV might not be. Well, now there's a graph mod that might be in every cast going forward, so that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
That being said, we have Optimus out of a game. We'll see how he's doing versus Tails. Although Tails immediately went away, so I'm not sure what that means.
How does that work? Okay, he's the advanced. Tails won.
Oh, okay, so I'm not going to put Optimus then. So that'll be Euthermal versus Tails, a TVP that should be ready to go, and we shouldn't have to buy so much downtime. Bottom side of the bracket will be Super versus either Billowy or TLO. But Euthermal being the lone standing Terran, and not particularly fond of the TVP matchup. We'll see how he does. I still think I give him I still favor him in this particular best of 3.
Yeah, me too. I think that Tails, I mean, as far as his advanced tier, it was a bit of an easier bracket for him. He's just never really been able to beat the A players, I guess. The Euthermal, TLO, Keen, Alive, some of the Americans, even like, Neve and whatnot. Like, I don't think I've ever seen him really beat anyone and been like, oh, I didn't expect that. Not yet, anyways. He is consistent, though. We're getting into the lobby right now, so I'm just gonna invite you.
Cool. Sorry, I'm just replying to
Yeah.
Fear Dragon, actually, on Twitter. Picking fights, because, he left us and we burned a bridge, and... Oh, wait, that's what Reddit thinks. He actually put a tweet out saying, if you were to see a best of 69 on Dassin Station, say in a week or two after BlizzCon, which matchup would you want? And lists like TVT, PVZ, etc. And I just replied with, I really don't think it's the matchup, I think it's the players. Take a look at the recent O Gaming matchups, right? Like, you had Bly versus Clem, then Marine Lord versus Bly, and both of those best of 31s were incredibly unfun one-sided matchups. And this is my opinion, by the way. You guys might not agree with that, but I just feel like Bly losing 27-4 was not a great show match series. And the fact that nobody donated anything to Matcherino kind of reflects that to me a little bit.
Sure. I think that a lot of people, though, they'll hear what the matchup is and tune in, or they'll hear the matchup is and tune out. Even if it's TLO versus Scarlet, 2 fan favorites, they'll say ZVZ, I'm out. So
maybe. There's certainly that degree of it, for certain. But at the same time, I think that if you tune in to a best of 69 and you see it's 30-0, like the Jon Snow Peely Peely one he had thrown a while ago, I think that I'm not caring how that ends.
Yeah, but I don't think he was like Yeah, like he's probably considering that as well. But I do mind the matchup too, I suppose. I'm actually like it evolved into more of like what matchup is better discussion for his part too. And, like following some of the tweets, I guess, that people are responding. They also follow. It's totally stalker mode, and as what the best matchup is, and it actually makes me think because I think a lot of people say TVZ, and I still think that's true, but actually I've been liking TVP better lately, so I would probably vote for TVP.
I've actually been liking TVP a lot more too, and we'll talk about that more in a moment. But guys, we are going to get into game number 1 here, the semifinals for the Corsair Cup. Quick shoutouts to Fart Falcon in chat, because that guy is total butts, and that's all I have to say about that. Thank you, Shining Force NL, for the new sub. Hype! And spawning in the top right, we got none other than the Korean Orange Protoss, Tails.
In the bottom left as the Blue Terran, he is Liquid Euthermal.
All right, and of course, there's going to be a considerable, I think, again, caster bias, Terran, but favoritism to Euthermal, because he has been just on such a tear, generally speaking. He's also one of these players who, well, it's a little bit sad he didn't get to BlizzCon. He's also maybe a little bit relieved, because he can just play everything and anything he wants fairly freely now. He doesn't have to worry about hiding builds or super, like, hardcore training regiments. To give some insight on that, too, I actually spoke with Snoot and a couple others who are going to BlizzCon, and well, not everyone seems to have the same regiment for practice. Everybody is buckling down at this point, and while that doesn't mean that they're going to stop playing in Cups Online, it does mean that it's a considerable large portion of their day is going to go to watching VODs of their opponent, not playing a bunch of ladder games, not playing a lot of online Cups.
Oh, it's certainly a different atmosphere. I don't think the bias has to be with how big the name is or the race that Euthermal is. The bias actually can just be of what we know about Tails. So, unfortunately, like, there's not much to be said about this guy. Like, favorite, like, well, that's not true. He is like still a decent Protoss, you know. Like, you have to take him seriously, even if you're on, I guess, the A list now. You know, the people that are at BlizzCon or almost made it to BlizzCon, like Euthermal. But he has not been a surprising force in any of the cups that he's participated in. And he's actually done quite a few, like all the European Cups and some of the Alima Leagues. But I don't remember a time where I've been like, Tails should probably lose, then he surprises me. Whereas if I said the same thing about Keen, I feel like sometimes Keen surprises me. And I'm like, oh, okay, he's actually on form today, like, good job. Never said the same thing about Tails, which is really unfortunate because it's the most consistent, I want to say, the most consistent Protoss Korean Protoss that we've seen. It's just too bad that we rarely get to catch him, first of all, because he doesn't make it to the semifinals, and then second of all, it doesn't do so well.
This went from really phenomenal micro to a misclick, and I'm not surprised to see a pause. That's either just like, I need a second to chill out from the tilt, or something's actually going wrong for Euthermal, because he was systematically picking each Marine back, and yeah, he should have killed the Adept. Now he might not at all, even. And this means that this pylon attack becomes even worse with nothing to stop it. But okay, he does kill the Adept. Wasn't sure if the Marine would get the hits in before it. Mothership Core is going to pick away at these SCVs, but it's very important that these Marines, they don't die here frivolously. This pylon's going to get overcharged. It's going to kill a depot, and maybe even the reactor.
I just realized what Tails' clan tag was. EU Imba. Not having such a great time in European tournaments.
Imba.
Or European time zones. Or just European players in general. I don't know which one's complaining about.
Oh, he's going to kill both depot. I didn't think that second one was going to be in range. Feels bad, man, for Euthermal. That's going to be a massive supply block. Like, devastatingly massive. He sets up a bunker back here to be safe as well. But that Widow Mine should catch the Adept. Not too bad. Usually when you open the doors, there's a big Adept follow-up to this, but there's not. This is just Tails getting damaged. A lot of damage for the cost of a pylon. Hell yeah, that's 100 minerals for 2 depots and a reactor.
This is a really good start for Tails, and some of that has to do with the Miss Micro for sure, but just in general, this can surprise someone who, I mean, doesn't have all the Marines together, doesn't pull back the Marines and SCVs from the natural and consolidates. It happens, but the point is that he dealt with it. But while there wasn't an immediate follow-up, actually getting the militia is pretty cool.
That is. But there's an attack coming towards the main through this Warp Prism.
Yeah, there is a follow-up. It just wasn't that immediate. So this is all 4 gateways. So that's decent amounts to attack with.
I think these are the right moves to do, by the way. Again, you throw him on a player that's necessarily easily tilted, but he is probably easily frustrated by Protoss, and the matchup being what it is, I'm not too surprised. So Tails hitting him with a lot of wonky but gross things to start with. Okay, maybe strategically not the most sound, but something that might pay off in Game 2 and Game 3, depending on how well this does here in the first game.
Well, that Cyclone gets an immediate lock on, and yeah, the little micro doesn't kill the Warp Prism. It gets it very, very low.
Unfortunately, these Widow Mines, well, they are getting kind of cool hits. The Warp Prism needs to be dealt with, and the Warp Prism will be taken out, but not before warping in more Adepts. The splash damage aiding and possibly killing the SCVs. But it certainly is aiding and killing the SCVs. Adepts getting some nice shots off before transferring to the natural, and Euthermal is just being run ragged.
Oh, no. Oh, Medevac. Sorry, Medevac almost died. It ran right into the main.
Oh, over here.
Yeah, this is the only counter damage he's going to be able to get done, so it is important that it did something. You get out of the Mothership core, which I guess is nice, but wanted worker kills. The Adepts get cleaned up by combination with Widow Mines and the leftover units.
But that's still 18
now,
SCVs in the gutter, and Euthermal doesn't have a third CC to help band-aid this with.
Yeah. This has certainly been one of the messier holds of this type of attack from Euthermal, for sure. It's also, I mean, I guess it's kind of old-fashioned. Only some Protosses are doing it nowadays. Like, you think of Mana, of course, but Tails as well can be a little bit cheesy or aggressive early on. And it's possible that Euthermal hasn't done a deal with this for the past 2 dozen games, something like that, but he's definitely dealt with it before. Like, this is not him being completely surprised. It got messy real quick.
Well, I'm starting to blush and get flustered. Got host, I'm sure it's an offline host, but still, hosted by one of my favorite streamers. Shout out to Dear Nadia. More on that in a moment, though, because the attack could be game ending. This bunker holding on for dear life. It will give up, however, unfortunately. Now retreating into the main. Cyclone with a kill or 2 on that lock-on, but damn, Euthermal might be killing a couple of probes on the other side of the map with these Widow Mines, but that's not going to make up for how much damage he's about to take at home. I mean, the command center is lifted. It's yielded position in the natural base, and this is not looking good for our Terran. He does get a clean up on the Adepts in the main, but now left with less than 20 SCVs. That quickly went from 20 to 15 in the last few throws of those Adepts. New Warping comes in, more Adepts on that front line, and Zombie Grub, I just don't think it's going to happen.
Tails is starting to lose his army. With 2 tanks, especially the second one gets sieged and he can micro that. He's at risk of getting counterattacked, but he has done a lot of damage. Third CC is almost done, though. I mean, like, Euthermal can still bring this back as long as he doesn't take further SCV losses. I think he actually will bring it back, in fact, but that's pretty scary.
The Cyclones and the tanks do a good job picking off those 2 Stalkers, but I don't know, like, I love the idea of a comeback from this situation, and just even theorizing, like, the possible ways to happen escapes me. Like, there's no theory crafting what 2 Cyclones and 2 tanks can really do, but if there was a player that could make this happen, I would put my money on Euthermal, of all people. He does have, like, the command center down. He's going to be trying to get these mules hammering and going. We're going to watch that income graph really quick and see how orange it looks, and we'll see if maybe he can bring it a little bit back into the blue. 4 mules are nice. Looks like a little bit of a start.
I really have a lot of faith in Terrans bringing back games, not because of mules, which is what everyone always says, but because eventually they get to medevacs, and their pushes can be very good, or their drops can be very good, even if Tails does have an army to respond with. He still can't deal with it positionally, or he can't deal with it, hitting 2 places at once, which Euthermal doesn't have a lot of units. He has a few important units, so it probably will be more about that direct push. But Tails is not getting a third base. He did give up, like, all of his army in that one attack and had to rebuild it from scratch, as you can see here. And he's the one that's going to start falling behind without a third base. His main base is already mined out, in fact.
By the way, that was a very expensive choice to scam, but a very necessary one. Cutting out vision from the observer, huge to stop Tails from seeing what's going on, but man, the fact that he had to scan, that's one less mule for that recovery process. He has brought the SCV count back up to 35, though. I mean, this is looking doable as far as economy goes, but once again, it's going to take a really good fight. He doesn't have a lot of bunkers set up. He doesn't have a lot of Widow Mines. Maybe the tanks are enough to overcome this, but the attack out of Tails, well, maybe not aided by a bunch of +1 and +2 upgrades, are still just numerous and large, and a lot of units going to be coming in here in a moment.
If he can micro, man, and Euthermal can definitely micro, I have a lot of faith in his defenses.
Yeah.
Tails is also trying to get maybe a little too fancy by attacking in more than one location.
Yeah, the Warp Prism actually pushed
well.
off by the Cyclone, getting it kind of low. Unfortunately, with the Adepts on top of these tanks, though, again, we're going to have to see that micro. Stalkers could focus down the medevac.
Drop it.
But
Oh,
they
man,
don't.
they actually don't have
And now
the
they don't have high ground vision. Yeah, so these tanks are just
Yeah.
going to slaughter from afar, but they do get up the top of the ramp, picking back. Once again, Euthermal not losing these tanks. He's refusing to go down without a fight, and rightfully so, but the attack on the right side does break the third. Cyclone going to try to finish off the Warp Prism. It doesn't get the kill. Tech Lab's been picked off. Tank's doing what they can for damage, but I think this is maybe a little too far gone at this point.
Yeah, I think so as
GG.
well. If only that Warp Prism had died. I mean, still, I think he would have lost. But the Warp Prism dies, he doesn't worry about his third base at all, and Protoss's army is just all clumped up. I think the tanks actually might have been able to do it.
Yeah, maybe. But that's going to be Euthermal's map pick for Game 2, and we'll see if he brings it back with perhaps a more favorable map on his side. Again, a little bit of an unconventional host, but people are asking, who did I shout out? Dear Nadia. She's a variety streamer. She normally does, like, Dead by Daylight more recently, but plays Hearthstone, League of Legends, other games. Overall, though, one of my favorite Twitch streamers, so make sure to check her out, guys. If someone's got a link for her chat or her stream and wants to drop in the chat, that'd be awesome. But other than that, it is going to be just hopping to Game 2 as quick as we can. A small commercial break beforehand, though, and we'll see you guys soon. All right, we're back, but as you guys can hear, the countdown has already started, so whoop, 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 and hop into the in-game screen. If you're just joining us on the broadcast for whatever reason, it is map number 2, and currently 1-0 in the favor of Tails, lowly diamond player here on the European ladder.
That's
Who'da
why
thunk
Europe
it?
is Imba.
This is proof, guys, that anybody can make anything happen in the cup. If a lowly diamond player like this guy up here could compete against the god himself, Euthermal, then you could too. You should consider signing up for all of our cups, because they are always open to everybody and anybody. But spawning in the top left side of the map, he is not actually diamond. He comes from Korea. It's going to be the orange Protoss Tails.
On the bottom right, as the blue Terran, he is Euthermal.
All right, so a bit of a rough road in that first game, and to be honest, like there was that little bit of a mouse hiccup that required the pause. I was a little bit worried about whether that would influence the game or not. I don't feel like from what we saw it was that big of a deal, but it certainly was frustrating, to see the least, like having that happen at the start of a game, especially when you see that probe coming. You got to deal with the Adept, the mothership core is on your ass, and you're just like, great, I know what's coming. How can I even deal with this if my mouse won't let me?
Yeah, that's a build that can already snowball, and then on top of that, you make a micro mistake, and that just compounds it. So Tails was able to capitalize on it. I mean, it looked a little bit scary, and it's a good thing that he did do the 2-base all-in, basically. He was running out of minerals in the main base to win that, but Euthermal almost brought it back. He was wishing he had brought it back, for sure. He still thought he had a chance, of course, of that third base up and running. But if Tails actually ends up 2-0 in Euthermal, or 2-1, whatever, maybe Euthermal brings it back and then can't do it in the third game. Either way, this would be, like, for some of like, Tails, okay, like, maybe you actually are going to be winning some of these cups now, because so far it's only been, at most, round of 4, I do believe, and usually not even then. So that last game was not exactly super clean by either of them, actually. Of course, Euthermal with the micro mistake, and then just having to deal with left, right, and center on the attacks. Tails overcommitted to one of the attacks and lost his entire army, but was able to replenish it before he ran out of minerals. It still obviously went better for Tails, but how much of that was because of the initial attack?
Right. It's. I feel like Terran right now, its state of the game, has some real odd, fragile factors in the early game. You see it most often with TVT, right? Like the 1 Reaper, 2 Hellions, or 2 Reapers, 1 Hellion sometimes win the game. But Protoss versus Terran, sometimes the dynamic is not obvious, but still a factor. I mean, that supply block early on, the 200 minerals they had to invest in 2 more depots, that was supposed to be another barracks for production. That was a potential half of a 3rd command center. Like, there's just so many frustrating things that happen when you got to spend that money like that. He might just have to do it again. Looks like Tails coming in with the same moves. This, by the way, has not been so common in the meta, but it was a time where just by default you're placing a bunker at the bottom of your ramp in anticipation of this move every single time.
Yeah, for sure. And as I was talking about last game, it's not done so much anymore, except by a couple.
Oh, he
of
focuses the
Protoss.
probe. Oh, that's huge,
Nicely
picking the probe
done.
off.
Yeah, very nicely done. So now you can just kind of ring around the rosy, run away from the adepts, and a Widowmine will make Tails think twice about committing his army units. Because, of course, bringing a probe over now isn't really going to work out. He's following this up with Blink, so I'm going to guess he wants to send a Blink Stalker attack to take advantage of the low production that comes with the Widowmine drop, which is what Euthermal did last time, and what is a very common build for Terrans in general. So it's usually a good guess. Like, what are they gonna do? Probably one base or two base Widowmine drop.
Truthfully, I would be shocked to see if this got away with it, and it got away with it like without a doubt type thing. But the thing about Blink attacks that I'm really not always sold on is if a Terran notices soon enough, you get that just right bunker placement or you get that just right siege tank placement, it can really stop it dead in its tracks.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the problem for Tails is, of course, he might have to accidentally blink into a Widowmine or two, but with Blink finishing up so darn quickly, he could, well, first of all, take care of this medevac, which can be very nice if you can actually snipe it. And then second of all, starts poking and prodding. He will also have to wait for a Warp Prism, though, from Robo.
Yeah. By the way, Turing Metal 2 says he just got here and thought the stream was ending because of our shoutouts to Nadia. We don't conventionally get hosts from people who don't do StarCraft, so we're just giving a little bit of extra love. So fear not, guys. We're only in the semifinals if you've just joined us. Medevac gonna get almost picked off, though the Blink also revealed. Ooh, that's kind of a biggie. I mean, you see this many stalkers, I think you know what's coming, but still actually confirming that the Blink is actually done. Now, this gives a bit of an awkwardness where these 3 Widowmines can get some very serious damage. Typically, when you go for Blink, it means later detection, and that's certainly going to be the case here. So, no Observer, fast Warp Prism, 3 Widowmines looking for those probe hits, and they're going to get some decent ones.
Okay, 7 probes. Tails can still go with his attack, but this is something he's going to have to clean up first.
Yeah, I'm almost wishing Thermal didn't try and bring these out of here. You might think there's an Observer on the way, but that Warp Prism was priority 1, which means the Observer, even if chronoed out, might not be here in time to stop that second shot.
Yeah. And that's really unfortunate for Tails,
Actually,
because if he was anticipating this build, and thus his counter doing damage, you think he would have anticipated the Widowmines and actually been able to defend against it. But I think the first initial medevac drop, the Marine drop, kind of threw him off.
The Liberator also going to finish off what little was left over. This, by the way, this doesn't kill Tails, but it does kill Tails' potential warpins. Like, you're not going to have 6 Stalkers. There'll be like 4 at a time with the income off of 1 base.
I mean, Euthermal is already prepared against this too. He already built 3 Widowmines, and after you built 3 Widowmines, you have a choice. You can continue building tanks, or you can go right into add-ons and barracks, and he built tanks, because so often there's a Blink Stalker response. In this case, it was a Blink Stalker all-in.
There's no high ground vision. The SCVs don't keep the bunker alive, but the tanks are just getting lots of free shots on these Stalkers, and they're already so weak. If they blink up here, the Marines are going to execute them. That's exactly what's happening. I don't think Tails expected that to be the case. Meanwhile, 16 workers have died on the other side of the map. That Widowmine looking to arm itself once again. Liberator setting up in the main. Tails has almost no income to speak of, and this attack is everything he's got. I think Euthermal's got this.
Yeah, this is game. I mean, one of the things about getting a Blink Stalker attack in after a Widowmine drop is you deal with the Widowmine drop first.
Yeah, he never built the Observer. That's what blows me away. He had the money, he had the time, he never built the Observer.
He did. He he got killed.
Okay, well, I guess it got killed, but immediately after the Warp Prism is my point. There was a good, like, 10-second gap where it never got started, and I guess maybe it got killed, but point still remains. Tails' income has plummeted. This is where that income graph gets really cool, guys. You can see Euthermal's insane leads. Now, not over yet, but still in the game. Tails is going to give it another shot. This time around, though, Euthermal's got +1 on his side.
Yeah, I mean, even without +1, he has such good positioning, because even if you don't take care of the Widowmine drop that well, like Tails has not done, this is actually a pretty disastrous Widowmine drop response, but even if you don't do it that well, but okay, you still have to find the Terran, like, current caught off guard.
Oh, there's 3 tanks. There's no way.
Euthermal is totally prepared for this.
Yeah, he could have dived in for the Warp Prism too. I kind of wish he did, but at the same time, he just deals with the Stalker so easily, it's not at all necessary. The Adepts are killing some SCVs, but GGs get called, and Euthermal takes game number 2. Very nice. Now, that being said, TLO was actually knocked out by Billowy down below, so now we have to extra cheer for Euthermal if we don't want a PvP finals. At the same time, though, if Euthermal does fall, everything else at this point will be Korea versus Korea, and that'll be interesting to see. Maybe we can actually host the rest of the games on the Korean server, give these guys a bit of a latency break. But either way, third game is going to be Euthermal's pick, or sorry, excuse me, Tails' pick, as Euthermal just tied things up now 1-1.
Yeah. Why did I have... There you go.
Just gotta wait for that map pick, though.
Yeah, in Tails' defense, I messaged Super for some reason.
Hey, Super. Map? Question mark?
Yeah, he was already on my PM list, and I don't know why, because I haven't talked to him at all today.
Alright, well,
Yeah,
while this goes on, I'm inspired by a tweet from a friendly streamer, and I have a question for chat. The carbonated beverage with sugar in it that tastes delicious, is that... Like, type in chat the number that correlates with your response. Is that 1, pop? Is that 2, soda? Or is that 3, a soft drink? Which of those best identifies the carbonated beverage with sugar that you drink? I'm really
Fuzzy
curious.
Lemonade.
I'm curious what
Trick question.
Fuzzy lemonade. Yeah. No, I'm curious what chat's gonna. It'll be 1s, 2s, or 3s. Obviously Canadian. I say pop is the default, but I know Americans go with soda, and apparently some people say soft drinks.
That ain't America versus Canada.
No, I know it's not America versus Canada, but I'm just saying, like, as examples, like, it's everywhere. Every time I go to the States, it's soda everywhere. Everywhere else, like, I guess soft drink is kind of a generic classification of both.
It's totally
I've always called it
regional.
pop.
Like, people will say that Pittsburgh's pop or whatever, and that's like 4 hours north of me. But Virginia's soda. Like, I never been able to keep track of what is what, but I do know that it's regional. It'll like literally change within like 4 hours of a drive.
That's interesting. Players are ready though. Final map's gonna be on Frost. Ooh, this should be interesting.
Sure, yeah. Tails chooses this. I
By
have
the way,
something specific on board.
I'm really stoked we hit 20 subs today, but I'm also totally sad that, like, after I put up the sub goal to see if we can get more, it's like a complete stop. It's like a complete road stop.
Cursed it.
I did. I really did. But also, actually, I was only factoring in Twitch Prime subs. I just looked. We actually have 22 new subs total. 20 Twitch Prime subs and 2 regular subs. So, still doing pretty awesome. Self pat on the back. Anyways, guys, girls, ladies, gentlemen, it's tied up now 1-1. Spawning in the top right side, we got the orange Protoss player, none other than Tails.
The bottom right, as the teal Terran, he is Euthermal.
Alright, so first thing I do need to note, with Tealo officially being knocked out at this point, no Zerg going forward. And this has got to be like one of the rare times this ever happens in the Corsair Cup. Because normally Corsair Cup, since its inception, classically ZVZ Fest. You got a Laser, you got Guru, you got Nurture, you got Bly, you got a million Zerg players playing in this cup. And just through the amount of Zerg players, it's very likely you'll get a lot of ZVZs. I guess some of them kind of practicing for BlizzCon, some people not saying they want to do the weekly cups, and that's okay, but this has left us with a potential PvP finals. I am still rooting for Euthermal. I want to see TVP. I love the matchup so much more than PvP, but that being said, PvP's been played a very different and strange way more recently.
Well, PvP is just such a limited scene, limited knowledge of the matchup, as it's one of the rarest ones you'll find in tournament play. On ladder, I don't know if that's the case. I remember back when Legacy of the Void was released, it was actually absolutely the case. Protosses could not figure out PvP because they couldn't, for the life of them, get PvP partners, like other Protosses on the ladder. No one wanted to play Protoss, no one wanted to relearn Protoss. Or the people who did were still playing Heart of the Swarm. But I don't know about now, but I do know that in competitive play, it's still one of the rarer matchups. And as such, you know, the Koreans and the foreigners still have a very distinct style difference, where some of the other matchups have really crossed over and bled over from each region to each other.
Yeah.
PvP is pretty set in the way that it is region to region.
Man, that's a heck of a lot of 2s in chat for soda, by the way, to recap on our previous question. We do have a
See,
I'm surprised we're actually seeing more 3s than 1s. The fact that there's more people that refer to it as soft drinks than pop, I guess doesn't surprise me, but to see this many is, there's like 3 1s in chat. Like,
I rarely hear it said pop as like the goat, like unless someone's trying to be funny, I guess. No one's like, can you give me a pop? But I'm surprised you didn't include another option, which is to call it Coke. Because that's what everyone
I've
does
never heard
and
anyone
everyone
refer to that
hates.
unless it's actually for literally a Coke. Like, could you get me a Coca-Cola,
You've never
please?
gone to a restaurant and said, well, I guess you haven't because you say that you say pop, but this has happened. I know people in chat some people will chat and back me up.
You hope.
But you go to a restaurant and you say, I'll have a Diet Coke, and they're like, is Diet Pepsi okay? And you're like, I didn't. Yes, that's
No,
fine.
see, that doesn't generally cover everything, though, the way I was trying to describe that. I think I see what you're saying, but that doesn't fit the description of just, like, generic beverage, because that could be anything.
That's true. You wouldn't ask for a Sprite and say Coke.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so it's just interesting to see that dynamic. Soda, pop, soft drink. So I always call it, like, can you get a pop from the fridge? Like, that's just Canada, I guess. I don't know, West Coast, or as you said, regional strangeness. But it looks like, I think it's without a doubt that soda seems to have won out hardcore.
Yeah.
There's like a million more twos than anything else.
Yep. That doesn't surprise me too much.
So our strange beverage talk aside, I mean, the Mothership core got a little bit low. She didn't do much other than maybe spook Euthermal, but when Euthermal saw no Adept and no Probe with this, it was pretty clear that Mothership core wasn't intended to do much. It did give away both players' spawn locations, however. You know, Tails confirming where Euthermal is, and Euthermal knowing that, hey, it came from the north really quick, so he'll just blindly drop up this direction, and yeah, it won't be too much trouble.
Halo Legend, what? I get what you're saying with this, but...
No, thank you.
Oh,
Halo
oh
Legend
my-
98. This
No,
guy understands what's
that's
up.
not why you
Riff,
do
I
it.
call it pop because when you open the can, it goes pop, not soft drink or soda. So I know that for some people that's not the onomatopoeia that makes sense, but that is for me. So
No, it's the onomatopoeia that makes sense. It's just that you don't call everything by its onomatopoeia. You don't call a cat a meow.
well, you call them busy bees.
Busy bees?
Yeah,
I always thought because they were so busy, they don't sleep and they just work a lot.
I know. I was just trying to.
Oh, I
Play
was
off the
about to have
onomatopoeia.
my mind blown if that's why you did it. It's 'cause it's not only
I mean,
that
yes,
they're
that's
busy,
exactly
but that
why
they
you do
make
it.
the sound.
I say it with confidence. Now, we did, of course, have a small attempt at a Widowmine drop wall. Hopefully, Tails would have been distracted to the north. Didn't quite work out for Euthermal. He was shut down on both sides of this. So, the Widowmine's last game may have won him a lot. This time, not really the case, unfortunately. Still, though, a couple of workers killed. No one's really super far ahead. Third C's coming up in base. Third Nexus on location. So, both players still playing this out macro. No one super two-basing it.
It is surprising that Tails isn't two-basing it. The last two games have been about all-ins.
Actually, yeah, and if you were going to go for like a Blink all-in, I think this would be the map you do it on.
He might be trying to play a little bit of a series, rather than an individual game, which you're supposed to do. But, you do 2 all-ins, and then for the third game, you hope to catch your opponent way too safe and get an economic lead. Into what might still be like an aggressive move out from you eventually, but obviously after a third base. Euthermal didn't really fall for it. His scouting was obviously going to be good since he was doing a drop. And he did see the intention to take a third base very early and then confirmed it as it was put down. So he doesn't even have to go for more tanks right here. He could have gone for pure bio, but he does like tanks. I'd say he's pretty good with them too.
By the way, almost missed it in chat, but shout out to the guy who just made the H3 reference. You're right. They are also known as Sody Pops. Papa bless.
I'm talking about what I brought up anyways.
Okay, so Observer for Tails, because to see everything at the front lines. I think for him, it kind of is nice to see that there is not a large army waiting, and of course, more importantly, actually saw the third CC. So he knows that for him, he's not going to have to deal with some sort of weird Terran 2-base all-in, which, let's be honest, can sometimes be scary. You get tanks in the right position, you get enough Marines with +1 to support, and you suddenly have a really bad time in your hands. I am interested to see the fact that Euthermal's expanding northwards, though, not south, to what is, in my opinion, the safer base.
It is certainly the safer base, but I guess Euthermal is the one that's going to plan on being aggressive with his tank positioning, but his stim is so far off.
And that's, by the way, for me, something I think is kind of important, because while we haven't seen it in a while, I've always been a fan of the style for those who expand towards their opponent. If they're planning to both defend and attack, it's going to be the same location. Whereas if you have to defend down here, then you can't necessarily easily attack up here. However, if all your forces are in the same place at the same time, you're doing defense and attack. It's 2 birds, 1 stone. So there is some benefit to doing it like this, but it's also much more risky. We'll see if this ends up being a risk that hurts Euthermal or not. Because these series so far, like, we're not seeing Tempest come out. Nothing sniping the SCVs from far away in those mineral lines. It's all been over in pretty much the mid game.
Yeah, just the mid game, and not much else. And that's probably where Tails still wants to hit, I would say. Like, I'm surprised that he is going for like apparently, like, you know, Robotech, right? He's like Immortal. He's not going for like the huge adept, you know, 30 plus adepts with Stalker attack type of style. Because I really would have thought that he was still aggressive even after getting to a 3rd base. If Observer sees this, but luckily Euthermal unloads.
So important that he unloaded too, because there's Blink available on these Stalkers, but this is not a fight Euthermal's going to be able to easily take, so walking away from this the best he can. The Widowmines don't really get much. They do hit a pop, and it splashes a little bit, or they hit a soda. Yeah. But either way, the Widowmines are cleaned up, and Euthermal gets away. Tails doesn't follow suit.
Thank you to Dodgyville for the 33-month resub.
For the Horde!
For the Coke. Dude,
I'm gonna say that like intentionally. I'm gonna be like, the Widowmine gets a nice soda off, hits some of the probes, like, just gets a nice Pepsi.
Yeah, thank you to Lemons TV for the 8-month resub as well. Aw, yeah. I was asking chat, like, does anyone actually prefer Pepsi? I really think that Coke has won the war.
So I am really undecided on this. To be honest with you, if I'm at a restaurant, I have no preferable favorite. If I'm at home, I think I prefer Coke, but only just because it's usually more... It's closer to the front of the aisle than the Pepsi is. Like,
oh my god, their marketing is insane. They're brilliant.
I'm just saying, like, I am not so picky that I would walk to the other end of the grocery aisle to get a Pepsi over a Coke.
That is a legitimate strategy. That's why, like, all the sugary cereals are like on the mid-level to low level, so the kids will see them.
So the kids can reach them and throw them in the cart while mom's not looking.
Yeah, so then they'll complain about it.
Oh,
but,
this might be a mistake.
This is not a good idea.
Yeah, give up.
Back away.
Just give up the Liberators. It's worth the loss to not take a bigger loss. Unfortunately, though, for Euthermal, that's still going to suck losing said units. New Twitch Prime sub hype, so we can add to that sub count. Taller than Retro. Thank you so much. Glad we've won your favor today. Widowmine's looking for a good soda. Looks like they get a couple of them. Shut up, Rifkin. You'd be so stupid.
He did add in some robotics units, and he's actually adding on Colossus now, but I think Euthermal's recognized how many adepts there are. Goes for the Ghost Academy before he goes for, I guess, no, he does have a 2nd starport. I don't know why he's not building more than 2 Liberators, though. But anyways, he does get everything he needs for the late game here. He goes to 4 bases, Tails does too.
It's likely the fact that he was saving the money for the ghosts. There we go. Now popping out. Like, I would love to see him produce 4 Liberators at a time, but the gas and the mineral count just isn't there. Drop in the top left could have been... Well, if he had focused the pylon, this drop may have been able to kill the Nexus. Unfortunately, though, the Adepts do warp in. Marauders should clean them up, albeit very, very slowly. While this goes on, the army from Tails, though, is not reacting to the top left, but instead moving along the right side. These Liberators have got to siege up now before it's too late. They don't have range on their side, so they're not going to be able to zone out the army super easily. And the army on the ground is not going to be able to focus the Stalkers because the Adepts are going to transfer through.
Where's the I thought the Colossus had popped out, but...
It is. It's sodaed out into the middle of the map, though.
Soda and sauntered. I like that. The drop in the 4th base is cleaned up after killing 15 probes, and Tails is still 62. Not that bad.
Okay, so the Observer comes over here too, because that Widowmine needs to be cleaned up. That's not something you can leave unattended. But while this goes on, this army, really, without the addition and the aid of that Colossus, you know, an EMP goes off, most of the Adepts get covered, and suddenly Euthermal's able to push through, even with an upgrade disadvantage. By the way, closing in on fixing that 2-2 slowly on the way, but the army now vastly out of position. 3 cannons guard the natural. He's going to perhaps move past this. Overcharge almost catches one of the medevacs. In fact, it does with the last shot. Full crew, all cargo goes down. But now Liberator set up in the main, and this positioning is questionable.
Yeah, I really don't know why Euthermal's trying this attack again. Like, the first time you do this, sometimes it really is good. You know, 2 Liberators cover your army and they don't have enough army to defend. But as the game goes on, it usually gets worse and worse to try Doom drops.
The part that breaks my heart watching that was the fact that you just gave away Ghosts with it. I mean, listen, Medevac sucks. That one's really low. But the Ghost giveaway was just... It's an expensive loss you can't necessarily afford. Quickly noticing that the Colossus finally gets brought up with the army. Tails had left this in the middle of the map for so long. Extended Thermal Lance is done too, so there's going to be a lot of range. And again, like, he's going for Vikings, an obvious necessity, but without range on his Liberators, it's going to be quite difficult to set them up in opportune positions. Stalkers will easily blink underneath them.
And because he lost his army, he doesn't have a lot of excess minerals to get to the Liberator range, or hell, even like a third starport, because things really are going towards the later stages of a PvT. Tails got a Stargate a while ago, and then actually was able to get up to Tempest. So Euthermal's missed that point, I think, where his army could have been better. If he hadn't done the drop, I think that a maxed out Ghost Liberator army, even without the Liberator range, would have beaten Tails, who only had one Colossus at the time, and majority ground units. But now it's different. Now he has more than one Colossus. He's going to have Tempest, he got the Liberators. And he has I guess has like so much better economy, but he's been on a more consistent one, I suppose, and took better trades. So he could probably get to a 5th base.
I can't believe how far this Sody Pop discussion has become or gone. Like,
yo,
now we're talking about, like, okay, well, Pepsi owns Mountain Dew, and Mountain Dew is better than the other subsidiary of Coke, so does that make one person? I love you guys.
I hate when Pepsi is the whatever you're called, the Coke, the soda pop producer of the establishment I go to, because I don't like Mountain Dew.
I
like
love
Sprite.
Mountain Dew. I did. You're little. There's like that rumor they went around like, oh, if you drink Mountain Dew, it kills your sperm count. I'm like, you know what? I'm 13. I don't give a fuck. I fucking love Mountain Dew.
I mean, I like Surge. I don't know what that was owned by, but
okay, there's some important stuff going on. I'll finish with this thought though. I thought Mountain Dew was delicious. Mountain Dew Code Red tasted the way Mr. Clean smells.
no way! Code Red and Blue. I
Oh
thought
no!
were delicious.
Oh
I got
no!
the
Are we gonna
World
have
of
a fight on
Warcraft
this?
Stuff.
Oh no, man! No way!
I loved it.
All right, EMP is going to come down top of the army, but that Blinken might have been a little bit too greedy. However, the Colossus and the backline are left alive and untouched as the Tempest were the priority target, so the Vikings are going to get picked off, and the Colossus will live, and now Euthermal down to less than half the supply might just be out of this game and might just be out of this tournament.
Master Praise. But actually, I mean, okay, so we brought it up with the first game that Euthermal doesn't feel so good against Protoss. But I really thought the way that Tails has been playing in all of our cups, that it wouldn't really matter that his matchup was bad. He might just be the better player. But Tails proving me wrong, actually takes the 2-1 over Euthermal. And finally, I can say that he can actually win this cup.
Maybe.
He's gonna play like that.
Other matchup we have is going to be Billowy versus Super. We're going to see if they want to play on the Korean server or not. It is worth noting, Euthermal still gets prize money, guys, just by making it to the top 4. That's $10 you got at the very least for the tournament, so that's nice and good for him. But I should probably update this goal properly because, again, I believe that makes 23 new subscribers. Okay, you know what Twitch alerts will tell me? One sec. Because it tracks both. Yeah, 23 new subs, so 23 out of 30. This, like, slap together at the last moment goal is going kind of swimmingly. Consider subscribing, guys. We're going to go to commercial break while we set up this next match. By the way, while we do this, please, please, please do me a favor. Scroll down below. Click on all the Corsair links. You see all the gear on the stream. You see all their products. They're awesome. I can vouch for the headsets. I can vouch for the mouse and the keyboard. Like, please, guys, check out the gear. It's really awesome. But we'll see you soon.